If you were in Procter & Gamble with its culture and its bureaucracy, and you sat down and figured, how can I make Procter & Gamble more like Berkshire Hathaway? It would go immediately to the too hard pile. It's just too hard. There's too much momentum. But you raise, by your question, a very interesting thing that deserves more attention than it gets. One of the reasons that Berkshire has been so successful is there's practically nobody at headquarters. We have almost no corporate bureaucracy. We have a few internal auditors who go out from there and check this or that. But basically, we have no bureaucracy. Having no bureaucracy is a huge advantage if the people who are running it are sensible people. Think of how poorly all of us have behaved in big bureaucracy, even though we have a lot of talent, because we couldn't change anything. So bureaucracy has a standard bunch of evils and a standard bunch of stupid wastes and so forth. And avoiding it is hugely important. And of course, the tendency of successful places, particularly successful government places, is to have more and more bureaucracy. And of course, it's terribly counterproductive. And of course, the bureaucracy, the individual bureaucrats, they're benefiting from more assistance, more meetings, more this, more that. So what looks like poison to us from the outside, because the decisions are so terrible, looks wonderful for them. It's opportunity. And I've just described the great tragedy of modern life. Modern life creates successful bureaucracy, and successful bureaucracy breeds failure and stupidity. How could it be otherwise? That's the big tension of modern life. And some of these places that go into a stupid bureaucracy and fire a third of the people and then the place works better, they're doing the Lord's work, but you wouldn't think so if you were working there. But there's a lot of horror and waste in bureaucracy, and it's inevitable. It's as natural as old age and death. I regard Lee Kuan Yew may have been the best nation builder that ever lived. He took over an malarial swamp with no assets, no natural resources, no nothing, surrounded by a bunch of Muslims who hated it. In fact, he was spat out by the Muslim country. They didn't want a bunch of damn Chinese in their country. That's how Singapore was formed as a country. The Muslims spat it out. And so here he is, no assets, no money, no nothing. People are dying of malaria, lots of corruption. And he creates in a very short time, by historical standards, modern Singapore. It was huge, huge, huge success. It was such a success, there's no other precedent in the history of the world that is any stronger. Now, China's more important because they're more Chinese, but you can give Lee Kuan Yew a lot of the credit for creating modern China, because those pragmatic communist leaders, they saw a bunch of Chinese that were rich when they were poor, and they said, the hell with this. Remember, the old communist said, I don't care whether the cat is black or white, I care whether it catches mice. And he wanted some of the success that Singapore got, and he copied the playbook. So I think the communist leadership that copied Lee Kuan Yew was right. I think Lee Kuan Yew was right. And of course, I have two busts of somebody else in my house. One is Benjamin Franklin and the other is Lee Kuan Yew. So that's what I think of it. So I think now you turn to India. And I would say, I'd rather work with a bunch of Chinese than I would Indian civilization, mired down, caste system, overpopulation, assimilating the worst stupidities of the democratic system, which, by the way, Lee Kuan Yew avoided. It's hard to get anything done in India, and the bribes are just awful. So all I can say is it's not going to be easy for India to follow the example of Lee Kuan Yew. I think India will move ahead, but it is so defective as a get-ahead in place. The Indians I know are fabulous people. They're just as talented as the Chinese, the Indian populace.